Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Guys, if you watch on a regular basis, you have seen that I've done a lot of videos on spinnerbaits. It is a technique that I really enjoy fishing. I think you get a lot of bites. It generates a lot of big bites. It's a very, very good bait. Any place you go, pretty much, whether it's clear water, dirty water, you can get bit on a spinnerbait. But almost every time I do one of those videos, I get questions in the comment section from viewers wanting to know, do I use trailers? And if I use trailers, what are my favorite trailers? And if I don't, why do I not use trailers? So that's what I want to talk about today. And my answer may really surprise you because I believe that I use trailers the majority of the time, if not almost all of the time. But the trailers that I choose to use are probably not what you guys would expect, and they probably don't even classify as a trailer to a lot of you. So stay tuned, I'm gonna get to that, but before I do wanna remind you that if you're looking to support the channel, you can go buy one of the Matt Steffen Fishing shirts out of my store with the Braveheart smallmouth on it. I've got a couple other designs as well. Also, if you want a little help on some of your local lakes, go check out fishthemoment.com. The link is in the description. I, myself, as well as Randy Blockett and Johnny Schultz, have done lots of different breakdowns, lake breakdowns for different times of the year where you get 40 different waypoints and some guidance as to what to be looking for based on the season. So check out fishthemoment.com. The lake breakdowns are there. And if we haven't done your lake, you can request a personal breakdown from yours truly for your favorite lake in your area. All right, guys. So do I use trailers on spinnerbaits? Well, I got to tell you a little background on this first. A spinnerbait was one of the first baits that I really started using when I was targeting bass when I was a young child. I mean, I'm talking 8 to 16 years old. It was pretty much, for me, I threw two baits. I threw a spinnerbait or I threw a 7-inch Berkeley power bait, like power worm. Those were the two baits that I pretty much threw. So I went, I recall when I was up in northern Wisconsin on a family vacation, I went to a bait shop. I was picking out a new spinnerbait. And the guy that ran the bait shop came up to me and he's like, well, you got to buy a trailer, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, you don't use trailers on your spinnerbait? I was probably like 12 years old at this point. And I pretty much had never really even thought about what trailer to use or even a trailer to put on it. And so he's like, let me show you. So what he brought me to was a pack of these Zoom split tail trailers. If you guys recall these, I mean, you can still find them. They still make them. But it's just a chunk with two little legs. And he's like, this will help you catch more fish. And I remember looking at it going, that is, first off, not at all what I would even consider a trailer. And second of all, I don't understand why, if you put this on a spinnerbait, how this is going to do anything more to help me catch more bass when the two legs almost look identical to what skirt material looks like. So I bought a pack because he told me I should, and I was, listening to the guy who's supposed to know what he's talking about. And I used it, and I don't like, I put it in the water and I just was like, I don't understand this. Like, it just looks like two little legs coming out. It didn't do anything different. And I did catch some fish on it, but after that year, that was back when we would take vacations, and that was when I did my fishing time, right? So after that vacation period, I just put the rest of the pack in my tackle box, and that was it. So for years, I never really was using anything like this. I would put a boot tail on. I would put, sometimes a twister tail, various different things to try to enhance my spinnerbait. And what I found was I didn't really like putting a boot tail on it, or I didn't like putting a twister tail, because I just felt like what it was doing was creating too much bulk and almost creating drag in the spinnerbait. So, for me, if you've watched some of my other videos, I like to pulsate the rod. I like to keep the spinnerbait moving more erratically, keep the skirt on it flaring. And when I was using, say, a boot tail or, you know, a twister tail, it just felt like the bait wasn't moving as much, and I really didn't think I was generating additional bites. Well, fast forward a bunch of years, I mean, that was kind of how I felt all the way up into like when I started fishing professionally. And one of the first years on tour, I don't recall exactly what year it was, but one of my buddies on tour, Brandon McMillan from down in Florida, calls me up and he's like, "Hey man, do you have any of the Zoom split tail trailers?" And it was like, I wanted to be like, "Why? Like, you're actually using those?" So he's like, "Yeah, man, I put them on all my spinner baits." And I was like, "Okay, give me some, like, why, like, what does that do for your spinnerbait? Because that's what these are known for, is a spinnerbait trailer." And he's like, "Well, it doesn't really enhance the action. What it does is it improves your hookup percentage." And I was like, "Explain that to me." He goes, "Well, it's because if you add bulk to the bait, when that fish goes to inhale the bait, there's more there for their suction to grab, and therefore it's going to pull the bait into their mouth from the hook perspective. Like you want that hook to come in versus, say, the blades or them eating the spinner bait head first." And I was like, "Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, that really does. You add a little bit of bulk, even though you're not really adding weight, you're adding bulk. So when they suck it, there's more to suck in, and they're going to suck the hook in first." And ever since then, I've experimented with different types of trailers. And I do think that the split tails help. But what I've really settled on more than anything is just a chunk of plastic. It's not, you know, I'm not looking to really increase my action. What I'm looking to do is just create bulk in the bait so that the fish have a little bit more to grab with. So one of my favorite things to do when it comes to this, and really the thing that I've relied on most the last probably 3 years, is just taking a chunk of my, you know, the Berkeley General. This is the Max Scent General. This is the 4-inch size, which is the side I like. And I will cut off about half of it and use just the butt end. Hopefully you can see that. So I've got the butt end sticking up on a 4-inch. So it's about 2 inches of a 4-inch Max Scent General. And the reason I do this is because I'm adding weight to the bait to cast, but when it's in the water, that General really isn't adding enough weight to prevent the fish from sucking that in. It's creating bulk, so when the fish comes up and flares their mouth, the bait it's easier for them to suck in the hook side. The other reason I like using something along this line is because it's not big enough to interfere with the skirt material. You don't have legs kicking around that the skirt material is going to kick to. And in this case, you can see that is, you know, the long strands of the skirt on this War Eagle spinnerbait cover up the tail of that. So to me, that doesn't really interfere at all with the bait. And if it does anything, it creates a little bit more of a fish silhouette. So if I pull these down, so the, you know, like a skirt would be in the water, it adds a little bit more bulk here. So if a fish is looking at it, there's more body that creates more of a bait fish silhouette, which gives them something more to key in on. But that's what I use as a trailer, guys. You wouldn't even know. If you walked by my boat and looked at this, without looking at it closely, you really wouldn't even know that I've got a trailer on there. But this is the same idea behind, like, when I throw my hair jigs for smallmouth. I almost always have like a 1-inch piece of, you know, old broken up stick worm, you know, whether it's your General or your Cinco or an old power worm. I've just got chunk on the hook shank because it adds bulk, which with a hair jig does two things. It allows me to cast further, and it allows the fish more bulk to suck in, and it actually keeps the bait from falling into the bottom faster. So that's what I use, guys. I hope the reasoning makes some sense to you, because I'm not looking for my trailer to create action. I'm not looking for it to try to draw fish to it. Now, I will occasionally still put, like, in really cold, muddy water, I will put a boot tail kicker swim bait on the back, because I'm slow rolling that bait. I'm not, in those instances, I'm not using a spinnerbait erratically. I'm almost using it, allowing the blades and the kicking, thumping motion to draw lethargic, cold fish to the bait. But when I'm fishing a spinnerbait, 90% of the time, where I'm just, covering water or fishing through grass and I'm throbbing my rod and getting it to pop around, I don't want a trailer to create action. To me, that's not what I want. All I want is a piece of plastic on here that gives them, uh, it helps them suck the bait into their mouth, which gives me better hookups, which, in the video I put out the other day about trailer hooks, I'm not a huge trailer hook fan. And this is part of the reason why. I don't get many fish that come up and miss the bait. In fact, generally, I'm hooking them really well on a spinnerbait. And a lot of that goes to the fact that they are inhaling it. So it's a little bit of a pro tip. You don't hear many people talk about it, but I can assure you that there are a lot of pros on tour right now that are putting chunks of plastic that are really do nothing plastics on the back end of their spinnerbait, and that's why they're doing it. They're not doing it for action, they're doing it for better hookups. So I hope this was helpful, guys. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Stay tuned, another tip coming out tomorrow.